everybody. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talks. Are you serious? It's Frost Sunday. It's a Sunday stream of consciousness. It's your show. Please bring those comments, bring those topics, bring those hot takes. We welcome everybody watching us today on Northeast Streaming Sports. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Roku this morning. Can't do the comments on Roku, unfortunately, but a great place to watch the games and watch a lot of other content. Get out there and download that app on Roku. It's free for the moment. Hello to the LTS, Let's Talk Sports network. We've finally got our shows back up and running there. Also, obviously, TGI Sports Talk. All of those, you can catch mine on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter later on. Also, a shout out to Ralph Williams over there at RW Media, and specifically the Sports Corner that Ralph does with Smokin' Jim Frazier on WVP, 12:30 a.m. and 99.3 FM. That's Tuesday nights at 5:30. But Ralph does a lot of other great stuff as well. So please check out Ralph's stuff. And DDH, thumbs up, buddy. We're waiting on a Patriot game here to start at 9:30. A lot of excitement around this Patriot Colt game, he said facetiously. We're going to get into all the college football games yesterday. Not all of them, but the majority, certainly the ones that matter towards the playoff race and the top 25 games. And the Big Ten, probably coupling with the NCAA, pulls a fast one on Michigan and Jim Harbaugh and waits till Friday to suspend him, where he can't get any court injunctions or whatnot. Great move. Very classy move by the NCAA and the Big Ten. If you don't think it's a witch hunt, just pay attention to these little things that happen. So we'll get into that. I'll give you my top 12 as of today in the playoff rankings. Got some changes there. We'll get into the NFL. We'll talk about last week's games, obviously this week's games. Bill Belichick we'll talk about. Some of the bad teams, bad quarterback situations that we talked about in the Are You Serious show on Friday. And this week's games, the picks, a little bit of Major League Baseball. We'll have, at some point, Jim Beringer from Let's Talk Sports and FullPressHockey.com will pop in with us, talk a little bit of college football and some NHL. He is out in Toronto at the Hall of Fame inductions this weekend and all of the hoopla that's going around there. I don't know what time Jim will pop in. In fact, now that I think about it, I didn't send Jim an invite, so he cannot pop in without that. So before I give you your good mornings, post your good mornings, and let me send Mr. Beringer a quick email. Oh, my God. I think this is the second time I've done this to poor Jimmy. Hope he didn't want to pop in right now. Again, it's always exciting entertainment when I do this, I'm sure. Got to get the right thing here. Jim Beringer, there it is. So put this in the right place. Guys, a lot of excitement yesterday. No, I think lots of excitement yesterday. Anyway, we'll send this off and hopefully he gets it. My bad. Let's get to some good mornings here and we'll move on. Who we got with us? Alec, good morning good afternoon to you, rather, over across the pond. Alec, San Francisco team with a tough game against the Jaguars today. Lost 3 in a row and a tough Jaguar team on the road. Good morning, Drew Ehrlich. Good to have you with us this morning. We'll talk a little bit of MLB today, Drew. Not a lot. More NFL and college and some NHL, hopefully. But we'll get into a little bit. I'll go through some of the stuff I went through on the MLB update. Probably not all of it. Oh, Anthony Price. Good morning, sir. Almost skipped by. You didn't mean to do that. Rick Sherlock jumping over from the Mac and Jack show. And Alex says, isn't it true the NC? Well, they do have evidence. I mean, again, they have evidence such as a guy walking, has the tickets to a game, supposedly video evidence of him on the sideline of Central Michigan, I want to say. So they have some evidence, yes. But by the way, this suspension, to be clear, this suspension was not levied on Jim Harbaugh. This was an institutional suspension, which took the form of suspending the head coach to punish the institution, Michigan football program in this case. This whole thing, again, I'll continue to tell you this, selective prosecution. They could go after anybody in virtually anybody. Again, when I say everybody, there's one guy who's going to church on Sundays and not trying to get an edge. I don't care if we're talking about the NCAA, the NFL, the Major League Baseball. There are guys trying to get an edge. And if somebody's got a haircut crosswise about that program or about that coach or manager, they can go out and investigate them and find something that they're doing. That's the case here. We don't listen to anything, and maybe it's Michigan's fault for not bringing the evidence forward, but they have had evidence given to them by a third party who was a Big Ten employee whose job it was to steal signals, that Ohio State and Rutgers both were helping Purdue with Michigan signals before the Big Ten championship game last year. What more do I need to prove my point? And again, that's stop telegraphing your signals. Oh my God, it's jealousy. Michigan's down. They liked it when Jim Harbaugh was down. They liked it. Continue to say this. Bo Nix country. I thought Oregon would have a better time, easier time against Ohio State yesterday. Had to miss Friday's MLB babysitting. Well, it's time to get the baby up to speed on baseball, Drew. Sit him down. I mean, what could be better for him than listen to me rant for an hour about nonsensical stuff? Managerial moves were interesting, not necessarily unexpected. I will tell you that Craig Counsell, we'll get into it later, the Craig Counsell move was very interesting to me, and I talked about that a lot Friday. Did he use the Mets? I'm never happy when a manager is negotiating for a job that's already filled. And again, that's the other thing I wanted to say, by the way, because I think somebody brought up, maybe Drew might have commented later about, no, I guess it was somebody during the show, but there used to be a code with managers that you didn't do that. You know, guy's got a job, fire your coach and your manager, and I'll talk to you. But we don't follow that code anymore. That's the interesting thing, too, about the sign signaling thing, or stealing signals, sorry. When you're cheating, you're stealing signs, stealing signals. When you're just looking for an edge, you're decoding the opposition's signals. I love the language that gets brought up here. This is going to be an ugly court battle, most likely. I would expect to see Jim Harbaugh back on the sideline next week, although the injunction hearing isn't until Friday. And I'll tell you another thing. I do not think that this will affect Michigan at all. This is a tough, veteran, resilient team. And if you watched them play Penn State yesterday, they dismantled them. The score was an indication of how better Michigan was than Penn State in this game. Watch the second half where they don't have to throw the football even once, and they dominated the second half. I said earlier in the year against Ohio State, Penn State can't get the ball down the field. They're like 113th in the country out of 133 teams in plays over 20 yards. At least they were at that time. I doubt they've improved that much. Good morning, CA. Good to have you with us. A blessed Sunday to you as well, wherever you are today. Do you think you'll be back? No, I have a pretty good feeling. Here's the thing. I think this whole thing helps Michigan. It helps the program, helps the players who want to win a national championship. This is the perfect year for them to win. While Georgia and Alabama are playing good football right now and playing better, we'll talk about their games in a second. These are not vintage Alabama teams, Georgia teams. If there is a time for Michigan to be able to win, it's now. And I think this controversy is galvanizing this team. And you saw it yesterday. So I think they have an excellent. I still like Georgia to win it all. But Personally, Anthony, I can see Jim Harbaugh in the silver and black of the team formerly known as the Oakland Raiders. Good morning, Dave Guyette. Good to have you with us. How'd Syracuse do this week? I don't even know. I'm in the wrong place. We're going to get to the scoreboard in a second, so we'll take a look. And by the way, a happy belated Veterans Day to all of you that did serve. And thank you for your service. The military academies did well yesterday, except Air Force. Air Force lays another egg at Hawaii, a bad Hawaii team. And Army does get a win yesterday against Holy Cross. So they've got to 4 wins. Still got a shot at a bowl game. And Navy wins. Navy's playing better. So congratulations to those. Good morning, Kenny Gifford up on the mountain. Probably got some snowflakes up there today or this weekend. Well, here's the thing. Apparently, the NCAA says you cannot go and scout games in person. You don't think teams are out there advanced scouting? Everybody does. Again, Michigan took it to a new level, just like Houston took it to a new level in MLB. I don't have a problem with it. Because if nobody else did it, and if you think Jim Harbaugh and Connor Stallion devised this scheme and they're the first ones ever to come up with this type of effort, we're nuts to think that. So to me, there's very little difference. It's all nuances and it all depends on the context of how you want to look at things. That's why I bring up the sign stealing versus decoding signs. It's not illegal to decode team signs. What the frick is the difference? Ross was a mute asthma. Oh, asthmust. Yeah, Joe Madden did the same thing to him in LA, right? I just don't think it's cool. I know in the real world it happens as well. I just don't think it's cool. Council is on a mission to be the highest paid manager, not just for himself. I get this because there's no union. And he felt, and his people felt, and I'm sure other managers felt that the contracts, the salaries, for these major league managers should go up. I think he probably used the Mets. I'm guessing he had no intention of going to the Mets. And by the way, you know what? I like Craig Counsell a lot. I've said that a lot. But he hasn't won anything. And I know he's been in the smallest market in the league. But good for him. Whatever. I mean, it's probably me nitpicking. Mickey Delaney must be happy with Washington. Yeah, I haven't seen Mickey much. Mickey hasn't popped into the college football show or anything. He was probably really happy early because he roots for the Cougars of Washington State as well. They haven't played too well of late. But Washington, a good win yesterday for Washington, I think, against an underrated Utah team. Their offense, not so good. They gave quite a few points to Washington's offense, though. But they managed to hold on and win by 7 or 8 points yesterday. We'll look at the scoreboard in a second. We're headed for another Washington-Oregon showdown here in a few weeks, so buckle up. What code is followed anymore? Oh, Kenny, you might have said it. I don't know. That's right. I think you put it in the comments after the show. We don't follow codes. Every man for himself. Every man for himself. Michigan is 4-0 without him. That's a very good point. I mean, look at Jim Harbaugh is still involved in the game plan. He'll still be able to coach this team during the week. And if you don't think that Jim Harbaugh had a phone line to the sideline yesterday, you're also probably got your head in the sand. Guaranteed he was having some kind of communication. I mean, he's not there calling plays, I don't think, from his from his living room. But I'm sure he had some input yesterday at different times. Listen, and a well-played game by Michigan. Great team. Good job by the assistant coach. I'm trying to think of his name now. It's not. Maybe it's Moore. Is it Shimmer Moore? I'm not even sure. I think it's Shimmer Moore. I could be wrong. But he's going to be a head coach. He might very well be the Michigan head coach next year. Who knows? Jim Harbaugh is going to the Raiders next season anyway. That's what I said. The team formerly known as Oakland. Reverse my little. I do with the other teams, but yes, I think Jim Harbaugh very well might well be the Raider coach next year. Fits. They're like renegades. You can say whatever you want about Jim Harbaugh, but Jim Harbaugh is a good football coach, a very good football coach. You go back and look at his track record. Maybe you don't like him as a person. I didn't like A-Rod. A-Rod was a great player. I didn't like Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells is a great coach. I may not like Jim. I'm kind of nonplussed about Jim Harbaugh. I don't care that much about Jim Harbaugh. They don't have to be vintage, just good, and they will win. We're talking about the SEC, I guess, right? Listen, that's possible. You've seen a lot of parity in the NCAA, like you see in the NFL. Although there's less bad teams in college football. But still, I mean, look at how good Ole Miss is a good football team. Can't beat Georgia and Alabama. That's Lane Kiffin's kryptonite, and that's what's holding him back from that team taking the next step. Same thing at Penn State. I've talked about forever. Ron Franklin will never he hasn't. I think he's he might be 4-20 now against Michigan and Ohio State. Who beat Pitt yesterday? Navy. It was an Army. No, Army beat Holy Cross. I can't remember. I had it here a little while ago. I jotted it down, but I can't read my writing. Air Force. It is Pitt, I guess. I write things down so fast sometimes, then I go back to them later, and I just got no shot. We'll come across it later. By the way, Liberty and James Madison stay undefeated yesterday. James Madison has petitioned the NCAA to waive their 2-year moratorium on being able to play in postseason when you join FBS 1 or jump up to FBS 1. You know, just stupid rule. They would be in play for the New Year's Day game from the group of 5 if they allowed that. We all have heard of a witch hunt, but this is definitely one. And the NCAA might just bury itself with this one. You know, Mac McGrath brought up a great point when I was on with them earlier. You know, it might be very short-sighted by the Big Ten not defending Harbaugh and the program here because, you know, when somebody like the SEC or somebody else, as we have more realignment in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, if Big Ten shows no loyalty to Harbaugh could very well be long gone, but to the program, they may just say, we'll go to the SEC. Brewers had already offered $5 million to make him the highest paid. Biggest thing is that Chicago's only an hour away from his home in Wisconsin, so he was never going to New York. Well, he fooled everybody because every single New York news outlet, was reporting the day before he signed with Chicago that a deal was nearly done with the Mets. So somebody was leaking some subterfuge there, and you know, whatever. It's probably not that big a deal. I know Craig Counsell always wanted to coach the Cubs or manage the Cubs. Starting to sound like a mad New Yorker, but kudos to him. He's the highest paid manager. 40 years of 8 years. Yeah, 40 years at $8 million. That wouldn't be very high paid, would it? Well, some of us would probably take that. I can't do the math. How much is that a year? Would I sign for that? Yeah, probably. No, wait a minute. 1 year is $8 million. I can't do the math. I don't think I would sign for that now that I think about it. 8 years, $40 million. Anthony at Ole Miss. You know what? I badly wanted to take Ole Miss yesterday, but again, Lane Kiffin cannot beat Georgia. It doesn't matter. Well, they haven't played. I guess Kirby Smart hadn't played Georgia, but he can't beat Alabama, who he plays every year. I think Lane Kiffin, this was his first time coaching against Georgia at Ole Miss. But Georgia's not losing Ole Miss at home. This team's getting better and better. Brock Bauer back last night. Some great performances around the league yesterday, which we'll talk about if we get to it as well. But you guys, the comments are good today, so keep it up. Or get comments are good every week. He may have been disguised on a fight side. He might have borrowed Bobby Valentine's Marco Brooks, Groucho Marx glasses and mustache, and been sitting somewhere. Listen, he had some communication. He'll build the game plan. He'll build a game plan this week. You know, the head coaches. I mean, he's a guy who lets his coaches coach anyway. So him not being on a sideline isn't the worst thing in the world. And especially when your team rallies around you the way this team is rallying around Jim Harbaugh, the players, the coaches, the alumni, everybody sees what's going on here except the Michigan haters or Harbaugh haters. Yeah, I mean, the team got there yesterday, Alec, with shirts, I think, that said Michigan against the world or something to that effect. He loves to be the underdog. That's why he didn't last in San Francisco. He didn't last in San Francisco for a couple of reasons, in my mind. First, he had a great offer money-wise to go back to his alma mater and turn that program around. He turned San Francisco around. He got to a Super Bowl with a flawed team, a flawed quarterback, with a gimmicked up system. And I think he knew he probably couldn't continue down that road, as Chip Kelly found out afterwards, because the league would catch up with it. So I think there was a couple of things there. But he loves to be able to say, it's us against them. It's us against everybody. And that's what the shirt said. Harbaugh goes to LV, Las Vegas, and how long before he will not. I keep telling you, Kenny, he won't look into Colin Kaepernick. I don't know why you guys think as soon as he gets back into the pros, Colin Kaepernick will be back in the pros. First of all, Colin Kaepernick hasn't played in about 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. I lose track of time. But Colin Kaepernick wasn't that good. If you watch Colin Kaepernick play, actually go back and watch some game film. He doesn't have the accuracy it takes to play in the NFL. That's why he's not in the league. I'm telling you, in a league full of bad acts, they'd have no problem with Colin Kaepernick playing quarterback in this league if he could play like Patrick Mahomes. He can't. And again, another reason why Harbaugh knew the success in San Francisco was not going to last. Oh, Syracuse beat Pittsburgh. Thank you, Rick. Finally, they break a 4-game losing streak, finally, and maybe Dino Babers, if he can get himself to a bowl game, that's not the Pinstripe Bowl. Actually, they played that game in Yankee Stadium, didn't they, yesterday? I believe they did. Mr. Jennings would be disappointed with you. Well, I'm sure Mr. Jennings would be disappointed in me for many reasons. My inability to do math in my head tops among them, yes. Okay, if he wasn't good, then why did he take it? I just said they tricked up the offense. They played the pistol, which nobody else in the NFL was playing. And defenses didn't know what to do with it, and they were able to take advantage of that. I know you don't believe that. I know you think if the lights hadn't gone out in the Super Bowl, they would have won, and that's entirely possible. It wouldn't change my comments. It wouldn't change my belief that Colin Kaepernick was playing in a tricked-up offense that took advantage of his ability to run the ball, run an offense that defenses never saw in the NFL. Why do you think nobody runs a pistol since then? Because defenses catch up with it, and it can't be successful when defenses are ready for that type of thing. Again, if he could play, he would be in the league. Watch video of his games and see how inaccurate he is throwing the football. But running the pistol, was he able to get people open? He didn't have to be precise. You got to complete 70% of your passes to be a competent NFL passer today. 65 anyway. Kyle had to change to keep Colin Kaepernick, and he didn't. That tells me. And I was thinking about Chip Kelly following. When the hell was Chip Kelly in San Francisco? In between, I guess, right? He tells me enough about Kaepernick when Kyle had RG3. Yeah. Again, I just don't think he can play. This league lets everybody play, Kenny. We had a guy who committed a double homicide on Super Bowl weekend in Atlanta. They let him back in. We had guys who we've got a guy playing now. He's got the highest contract in NFL history who raped 66 women. Potentially. Allegedly. Sorry. Sue me. Sexually assaulted. Sorry. Anthony, not being an ass, but what's the difference between Martavis Bryant and Cap getting a job? I don't know enough about Martavis Bryant to say. I know a lot about Cap. Can't play. He's not been banished. He's not been blackballed. Maybe some teams, but the league itself has not blackballed him. Look at the number of bad quarterbacks in the league right now. I went through this on Friday. There's at least nearly half the league has a bad quarterback situation. If this guy could play, he'd be in the league somewhere, even if it was carrying a clipboard. Look at that. I got Drew Ehrlich on my side. Finally, I always find somebody if I rant long enough. We'll come back to Kaepernick. I'm going to get to the top 25 now. Again, Jim Beringer will join us at some point today, potentially from Toronto, where he's been all weekend for the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So let's get to the top 25 at least, and I'll give you my at some point here my top 12. The new rankings will come out. The AP rankings will come out today. The real rankings that matter now, the college football rankings, will come out on Tuesday. Top 25, Louisville. Boy, I got Louisville back at number 9 now, by the way. Probably going to play Florida State in what is shaping up to be a very good ACC championship game. They beat a game Virginia team 31-24. By the way, you see the kickoff specialist for Virginia. He's a 34-year-old Army veteran. Army? Maybe Marine. Not sure. But he's a veteran, 34 years old, and he's playing with these kids. Good for him. It was a good story on game day yesterday. Florida State holds on to beat Miami. Miami played. They played hard. They benched Van Dyke yesterday. Van Dyke had to come back in late in the game when Miami was trying to drive for the winning touchdown after Williams hurt himself, extending himself for a first down, which didn't look like a first down to me, by the way. Let me take Drew's comment down here. Here we go. But, Van Dyke comes in and throws another interception. That is 11th in the last 4 games, and they lose. Good Florida State is good in all aspects of the game in my mind. They aren't as flashy as some other teams, but Jordan Travis is the real deal, man. Should be getting talked up more in the Heisman race. Ohio State rolls over Michigan State. Michigan State's terrible, obviously, as we know. Ohio State will probably stay number 1 in the poll. I will have Georgia number 1 in the poll. Georgia rolls over Ole Miss. We said Carson Beck with a great day, 2 touchdowns, 306 yards. McConkey with 81 yards. And they ran the ball very well. Milton had 127 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, 52-17. This game was close early. Early meaning the first quarter. and then it got out of hand. Michigan 24-15, not nearly that close. Drew Allard only throws for 70 yards. They don't have an explosive offense. They can't even get the ball 20 yards down the field. Michigan, well, this, again, the score looks close. Michigan just destroyed this team in the second half. Never threw a pass in the second half. Blake Corum leads the way with 45 yards rushing and a couple of touchdowns. Penn State and James Franklin. Who the hell's Ron Franklin? I think he was an announcer years ago. Just can't beat the top teams in the Big Ten. Washington holds on, actually comes back. They were behind in this game in the third quarter, but they come back and they win 35-28. Michael Penix with a couple more touchdowns. Him and Bo Nix are likely, I think, going to be 1 and 2 in the Heisman race. And if they stay on his collision course for the Pac-12 championship game, they will likely, I think the winner there will likely be also the winner in the Heisman Trophy games. Speaking of Oregon, they win 36-27 over USC. Congratulations to USC for keeping his team under 60. Bo Nix for 412 and 4 touchdowns yesterday. Again, bad USC defense. So I'm not putting him ahead. I'm leaving Michael Penix at the top for now. Texas nearly blows a 29-6 lead at halftime. 26-6 lead at halftime. Scored only 3 points in the second half. TCU scores 20 in the fourth quarter, and Texas holds on to win this by 3. This game, with coupled with Kansas State game, Texas barely won last week, and Oklahoma State getting blown out yesterday. The Oklahoma blowout probably helps them, but those first 3 results hurt Texas's chance with the committee. Even if they win out and win the Big 12, if they're beating an Oklahoma State team that just got beat by 40-some points against UCF, doesn't bode well for Texas. Alabama playing better and better. Milroe responsible for 6 touchdowns in this game yesterday. They went 49-21 over Kentucky on the road. Oregon State dismantles Stanford, who'd given some teams in the Pac-12 a close game. Put those comments up. I'll get to them in just a second. So a good game for Oregon State. I've got them moved up to the top 10 in the playoff race. Really no path to a playoff. Missouri bounces back after a tough loss in Georgia, yet last week played a game. They were very game in that game, if that makes any sense. They played well. They win 36-7, over a very good Tennessee team. Schrader runs for 200 yards, catches for 100 yards. First time ever in the SEC that's happened. Great game, great player. And you're going to hear more about him maybe on the next level. As I mentioned a minute ago, UCF dismantles UCF dismantles Oklahoma State, who I've been talking up as a potentially beating Texas in the Big 12 championship game. Now it's debatable whether they can even get there. They get killed 45-3. Texas Tech, who's been a big disappointment this year in a lot of people's eyes, beats Kansas, who had been on a roll 16-13. West Virginia gets bombed by Oklahoma. A little late for you, Oklahoma. They might get back to the championship game, but 2 losses leaves them out of the playoff picture. 59-20 here. LSU beats up on Florida. LSU wins 52-35. Arizona continues their hot streak. Jed Finch, former quarterback coach for the Patriots, had himself on the hot seat going into this year. He's now 7-3, 5-2 in the Pac-12 with a win over Colorado. And Deion's Buffaloes are now scrambling to try to get themselves bowl eligible, and it may be a tough go to do that. Iowa somehow scores 22 points yesterday. I got to believe the defense scored some points. I bet Iowa yesterday. I had a good day yesterday. I bet Iowa. I bet Missouri. And I bet who's the other team I bet? God, I can't remember. It'll come to me here in a second. Tulane, another squeaker for them against a A bad team in the American Conference, 24-22. They remain undefeated in conference along with SMU and UTSA. Interesting race there. North Carolina rebounds and outlasts Duke 47-45. And Kansas State just whacked Baylor 59-25. Let's see what we got for comments here. We probably still got some Kaepernick comments here, I'm sure. What do you got? Don't go there about being accused. We all know about that shit, don't we? Listen, accused, there's plenty of evidence. You had women that came forward, and there's plenty of evidence. Why the DA decided not to go forward, you can make up your own reason for. I don't care how you parse it. When 66 women, up to 66 women, and you could even leave it in the 20s where it is officially, where there's smoke, there's fire. Sorry. 20 plus women say you took advantage of the situation we were in. Hall of Shame. I watched enough bad games for Cap and would rather have Blaine Capper. Well, I tell you, that statement says a lot. That's a 49er fan, Kenny, who'd rather have a horrible quarterback in Blaine Gabbert than Colin Kaepernick. Noel's playing really well. They got to win out. They got to beat Louisville, most likely, in the ACC championship game. Undefeated, they're in the playoff. Washington goes undefeated, they're in the playoff. Michigan or Ohio State goes undefeated, they're in the playoff. That leaves one spot, maybe, for the SEC. And I do think it got more likely yesterday, because I had a scenario the other day where I talked about those teams that I just mentioned all being undefeated. Georgia, Alabama winning out to the SEC championship game. Texas winning out to play a good Oklahoma State team at the time in the Big 12. Alabama wins. Texas wins. The 4 spots go into one of these teams with 1 loss, and Texas had beaten Alabama. And I said, you can't take Alabama. Well, now, with the results yesterday, with Oklahoma State getting dismantled, Oklahoma already with 2 losses, Texas struggling with a bad TCU team. Now I'm not so sure that scenario would play out. That was a safety. There was a lot of bad. If you're still talking about the Florida State Miami game, there was a lot of bad officiating in this game. Bad instant replay reviews. Even the last first down that Miami got, where Williams hurt his arm, he looked to be at least a half yard short of the yard marker. So, again, and there were other plays earlier in the game that directly played into the outcome as well. If you're not sure what I'm talking about with the 91 felony accounts and 29 sexual assaults, didn't stop a certain man from leading a country. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Well, again, I don't disagree with you there either, Kenny. My political persuasions are with his party. I will not vote for the man. I'll give you my politics. I'll give you a snippet here. We're not going to have a big debate about politics here today. I will tell you, my wife and I were having this conversation the other day. She's an independent. I'm a Republican. If this is a rematch of 2020, for the first time in my life, I will not vote. I will not vote. And I'll take George Carlin's attitude of, don't blame me. All you people who wanted... I might see myself voting for Joe Manchin if he runs in a third party. At least he's a moderate Democrat. Republicans can't get out of their own way. I'm ashamed of my own party. That's enough politics, by the way. Upset pick, UCF held up well. That was your pick? Good call. That wasn't an upset. That was a dismantling. Caleb Williams going to get injured playing crazy. I said for a while that when I watch Caleb Williams play, I see RG3. RG3 was a good player. I mean, we all know what happened when Shanahan overused him in that playoff game and just destroyed his ankle. And he was never the same player. RG3 was a good player, and I see the same kind of thing happen to Caleb Williams. I don't know why. When he plays, I see some of RG3 there, and he plays a bit reckless as RG3 did, and RG3's coaches didn't do him any favors. No player over 23 should be allowed to win the Heisman. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm going to say both Knicks and Penix could be over 23. But why would that matter, though, Kenny? I mean, if you haven't used any eligibility and you went into the league at 30, heck, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Weinke from Florida State, and somebody can help me with the exact number, was like 27 years old when he won. And if you didn't have any eligibility, now I know you're talking men against, I'm assuming you're talking about it's a men against boys kind of thing. But, by the way, we're about 20 minutes from kickoff from this exciting game in Germany. I don't know why you would matter. These other kids have been getting all this great training while the other guys were sitting at home or in the Army or whatever. I know, but the guys you're talking about have been playing in college football for 6 or 7 years. I mean, your quarterback's eligible for Social Security there at Notre Dame. Daniel Jones should sue the Giants for lack of support. What an ugly situation. I talk about ugly situations in the NFL. The Giants have one right now as Danny DeVito's playing quarterback for him or some relative of his. Tony, what's his name? Tony DeVito. Giants shouldn't have a problem in the future, but maybe they will. You can't protect your quarterback, you're in trouble, and a lot of teams can't. And that's part of the problem of paying these guys all this money. You pay your quarterbacks $50 or $60 million. Well, guess what? You're going to have to there's a hard cap in the NFL. You're going to have to take that money from someplace. Offensive linemen or offensive lineman depth. There's a lot of bad offensive lines, and if they're not bad, they don't have a lot of depth if somebody gets hurt. Yeah, he did have. Listen, people wanted to come and watch, and he either canceled them or, as Rick says, moved the site, whatever. He could not play. Sorry, shouldn't have used that as an example. That's okay. You know what, Kenny? It's actually a good example. It's a great example. So I don't have any problem with you using that example at all. You know, we can listen. This isn't a political show, but it's a stream of consciousness. We can delve off into that world. Because I will tell you something right now. I really get tired. I get tired when I tell people that I'm a Republican, or I get into political conversations, which I try to stay out of lately because people are nuts. If I say I'm a Republican, people think that I'm a Trump supporter. I've never been a Trump supporter. Never. I had to vote for him last time because of the I don't want to use any of the adjectives that I wanted to use here because of the guy the other party put up to run against him and the people that were backing him. But I held my nose and voted for him. I will tell you proudly, in 2016, I voted for Gary Johnson. There you go. Anyway, that's our political talk for the day. So you can go there, Kenny, now and again. We're just not going to get into deep-rooted discussions. That's all. My frustrations are my frustrations. You missed on Kansas. Yeah, that was a tough one with Kansas. It's a good football team. College is for kids, not men, not being able to take the next step. You got to remember something too, Kenny. A lot of these guys are staying because of the NIL money. The system keeps them there. They can make more money, some of these guys in college, than they can with the rookie contract caps in the NFL. So again, what's this? Tommy DeVito. I like Danny DeVito better. Well, don't let the facts ruin a good story. Georgia are grown men. Yeah, well, most of them are under. I think most of them are under 23. I guess you don't know anymore. I think your politics is bad to come take. Yeah, it's a good point. It's funny, Alec. Dan Harris and I used to have this joke all the time before we would do our Let's Talk New York Sports show. And Dan Harris, the late great Dan Harris, we used to joke all the time about which country had the worst situation, the UK or us. So that's a good point. We used to have a lot of fun talking about Boris. And things have gotten worse, I think. Anyway, let's look at some other any other scores of note that we're interested in. We talked about Navy winning. Congratulations to them. We talked about Army winning. Congratulations to them. They're up to 4 wins now. Jeff Monkins done a great job. They're changing the offense. Had some tough losses. Now they're starting to win. They beat Air Force last week. Air Force with a bad loss yesterday to Hawaii. What else we got? I was interested. SMU, I said, they're rolled over North Texas, playing really well in the AAC. UNLV playing really well in the Mountain West. 34. They win 34-14 over Wyoming, who got off to a good start this year. These are all going to be top 25 games. I just want to pick out some other unranked teams that might be of interest. Illinois and Indiana, a very surprising shootout yesterday. 48-45. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. Illinois' quarterback, Paddock, throws for 507 yards and 4 touchdowns. Good win for Illinois, getting them to 500 overall, 3-4 in the Big Ten. Iowa, by the way, I mentioned earlier, winning 22-0 over Rutgers, is in line to win the West of the Big Ten again and going to be teed up to get their asses kicked. Nebraska loses again. Had a little momentum going. They lose at home to Maryland yesterday. South Carolina gets a big win. Boston College gets killed. Clemson wins again against not a bad Georgia Tech team. They double up their score. Liberty stays undefeated, as I said. James Madison stays undefeated. North Carolina State just whoops up on Wake Forest. Wake's had a bad year. We're going to try again to get Larry Sorensen in Wednesday night on the college football huddle to talk a little bit about this bad year for Wake, ACC in general. And he is a Michigan alum, so I want to get his take on that as well. UCLA with a bad loss too yesterday, by the way. Purdue rolls over Minnesota. Bit of a surprise. Well, Northwestern is now 1 game under 500 in the Big Ten, 500 overall. Great job by Coach Braun there. Probably going to put himself in play for the full-time gig there, I would think. Syracuse beats Pittsburgh, as Rick mentioned earlier, in Yankee Stadium, 28-13. Navy wins 31-6. Auburn wins against Arkansas on the road. Auburn's playing better football. The Iron Bowl's next week. That game, if Alabama wins that and still goes to the SEC championship game and then beats Georgia, that's not going to bode well for their playoff chance. The SEC's playoff chances. Cal beats Washington State, as I said, Rick, when you were talking about Mickey Delaney, he's probably half happy and half sad because Washington State's fallen on some bad times. After a great start, they're 1-6 in the Pac-12, tied with Colorado. UCLA, as I said, lost to a bad Arizona State team at home. That's a horrible loss for Chip Kelly and the Bruins for sure. BYU was a big upset pick for yesterday. I noticed on game day they lost 45-13 to BYU, and Fresno State gets beat by San Jose State. Air Force gets beat by Hawaii. The Mountain West is getting turned upside down. Where are we here? Kenny, I'm not against anything making money, but if it's more than a college tuition, then a major percentage should go back to the school. You know what? The rules are the rules, and they're probably not going to change for a while. The thing has been bastardized so badly. The schools weren't even supposed to be involved in the NIL. This was supposed to be money they could make from outside sources to get their name on billboards. Remember, name, image, and likeness. Basically, and that started over video games, guys. Using your name and likeness in video games. That's how it started. It didn't turn out where we're going to give you, $3 million to come to our school and play football. And we'd have these consortiums, or whatever they call them, probably using the wrong word, at the colleges, where the colleges are basically involved in who we want to get the money to. That's not how this was supposed to work. CA is a true liberal. Surprised to hear that, actually. However, that means my conscience hasn't allowed me to ever support or vote for any. That's very funny, actually. What's the chances of Harrison Jr. winning the Heisman? Marvin Harrison Jr.'s had a great year. The problem is, and again, it's been cyclical, right? How this has worked. We had runs where running backs won. Well, we had runs where quarterbacks all run. Then we had runs where running backs all won. Then we had runs where quarterbacks all won. Get a wide receiver in there once in a while. Wide receivers have a tough time overall. I mean, I can think of Devontae Smith. I can think of Charles Woodson. I can think of Tim Brown. And nobody else comes to mind right now. Marvin Harrison may very well be the best player in college football. He'll be the first wide receiver taken next year. Great player. And you see it every week. Well, part of Ohio State's fortunes, a big part of them getting better in this year has been the quarterback has gotten better in his chemistry with Marvin Harrison. Great player. And the son of a great Syracuse alum, Marvin Harrison, obviously. The new Pony Express. Not sure where that one came from. King missed an opportunity to settle matters in his speech by listening to the foreign old immigration numbers and the recommendation to halt immigration and start deportations. We're not going to dive that deep into things here today, CA, but listen, we can say this. Everybody ought to be able to agree. This place is a mess. And if you voted for Biden, I'm not saying you should have voted for Trump because obviously the issues are there. If you voted for Biden, you've been awful quiet for the last 3 years. That's all I can say. A disgrace. And again, I feel bad for the guy. I really feel bad. Go watch the video of him at the Arlington Cemetery yesterday as he stood there basically confused about what the hell to do. I feel bad that this is, politics aside, all politics aside, this man can't be running this country at this very volatile time in the world. Can't be. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? No, I want to give you my picks. Hang on, I got to give you my top 12, and then we'll take a quick look at some other college football news. Again, we do expect Jim Behringer to jump in here at some point. I don't have my phone, so I can't. My phone's upstairs, so I can't see if he's texted me. If he has, we got a problem. Anyway, my top 12 right now, I've got Georgia on top still. I moved Michigan to number 2 ahead of Ohio State. I moved FSU ahead of Ohio State to the number 3 spot. Ohio State sits at 4. That'll all change in a couple of weeks when Ohio State plays Michigan. I've got Bama up to 5. I moved them ahead of both Washington and Oregon, and I can't put Oregon over. Oregon might be better than Washington, but I can't put them over them because they lost to them. That will rectify itself. Texas at 8, Louisville now at 9, Oregon State at 10, Missouri at 11, and Oklahoma, I move up to 12. I'm going to move on to maybe we should have NIL for politicians under 50. By the way, kudos to Nikki Haley the other night for jumping all over M. Night Shyamalan there. Don't write me letters, okay? I don't know the guy's name. I don't care. I'll never vote for him. But I like Nikki Haley. And I like Ron DeSantis, too. I like Nikki Haley a lot. And kudos to her for sticking up for her family. Keep families out of politics. That's just BS, but kudos to her, by the way. Unfortunately, I don't think she's under 50 either. I think Texas A&M just fired their head coach. What? Hold on. I'd be shocked. Again, $77 million buyout. We're going to see if there's any news on that. Jimbo out. I think they even played yesterday, didn't they? Well, I don't see anything in the major news headline. Let's see what I can find in Jimbo Fisher. Come on. I got so many windows open right now. I'd be shocked, Anthony, if they did do that. I mean, what'd they do yesterday? Did they play yesterday? Take a quick look at the let's take a quick look at the SEC. I don't even remember who the hell they were playing. I went right by them, obviously, so I wasn't that interested in it. If they lost yesterday, maybe all bets are off. I thought they were there's no way they fired him today. They won 51-10 yesterday against Mississippi State. So that's got to be an erroneous report. Can't find anything on it. So anyway, you got my picks. What else is going on? Anything else in the NCAA? We're going to talk about a lot of all of this in more depth on Wednesday night. We'll find out more about the Harbaugh story, I'm sure. By the way, I didn't mention that LSU game. Jalen Daniels goes for 606 yards and 5 touchdowns. Great scheme for him. Too bad LSU doesn't play defense. They'd be really good. And Bowers did catch a touchdown in his return. So great job for him. We're going to move over to the NFL now real quickly. Let me get to the right banner here. Let's talk NFL. Week 10's here. Let's take a quick look back at last week's games, as we like to do. Talk about the ramifications of them. Week 9 was not pretty. Steelers beat the Titans. Will Levis, not quite as good a game in his second game, but played okay. He played well enough probably for his team to win. Steelers not getting good quarterback play, but getting really good defensive play. Watt might be the MVP of the league, but both on considering offense and defense. The Steelers are surprising 5-3. They win 20-16 in a game the Patriots had to win after beating Buffalo. This team needed to win against the Commanders. They have winnable teams. They had winnable games in front of them. This is one of them. And it was just a horrible, horrible game. They don't commit to the run enough. They don't protect their quarterback. Their quarterback's still making bad decisions because they ruined him last year. And who thought that we'd now be in a place where it's possible Bill Belichick gets left behind in Germany? Not literally, but there's a chance if they lose this game, and we're getting ready to kick it off here in a few minutes. Bill Belichick is not the coach. Now, I do not think they do him that disservice and fire him in the middle of the season. But I do think we're probably moving on from Bill Belichick. This team has not responded to him this year. He hasn't been able to. The biggest thing in my mind, two things. The head coach, the game hasn't passed the head coach by. But he's not evaluating talent and hasn't in quite a while the way that he used to. And he has trouble putting together a really good coaching staff. That all plays into this. The Chiefs in Germany last week beat the Dolphins 21-14. Listen, all those people, again, just like last year, writing off the Chiefs. They got the best record, tied for the best record in the AFC. Great point differential. It's still a good football team. And Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, and your defense is getting better and better. Still the best team in the AFC in my mind. Falcons lose a bad game to the Vikings. Good job by Josh Hobbs coming in late in this game. Runs for a lot of yards and a touchdown. Probably, I think he's starting today. If they find a way, if O'Connell finds a way to get this team into the playoffs, he's got to be the coach of the year. Cardinals lose to the Browns 27-0. Back today, it will be Kyler Murray, by the way. And the criminally never mind. What's our nickname for him, Drew? Didn't play well. But the Browns do win 27-20. Packers win 20-3. Pick against the Packers today. I like Pittsburgh to beat them. We'll get to that in a second. The Saints 24-17. Winners over the Bears. The Ravens 37-3 over the Seahawks. I like the Seahawks in this game, and they just fell apart early. Texans. C.J. Stroud, by the way, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. Best rookie quarterback, unless Will Levis has a big second half of this class. The Colts 27-13 over the Panthers. The Raiders 30-6 over the Giants. As we said, Danny DeVito will be the quarterback for the remainder of the year. They did sign Jacob Eason, former Washington Husky quarterback, has had a couple of stops in the NFL. Eagles, Cowboys can't beat the Eagles. 28-23. Bengals playing good football, 24-18 over the Bills. And the Chargers, the Jets are wasting a tremendous defense by not being able to get out of their own way on offense and even special teams last week. So not a good point. We'll look at the standings here and some news and your comments about the NFL or whatever else you got up here. Thank you, Gerald. Jump ahead a minute. The massage molester. Thank you. I can never remember that. Oh, God. Alec, what do you got? Would I rather have a successful 10-year coaching career or just get sacked once for $70 million after 1 year? Well, if I was all about the money, I'll take the $70 million and walk. If I was about, being the best in my field, I'd want that successful coaching career. Bill Belichick's had a 20-year successful 20 plus. But I think his record is now 80-97 or 98 without a guy named Brady behind center. And again, I'm still not going to say it was all Tom Brady. I'm just not willing to do that. And there's some evidence in the middle of the run, not even the middle of the run, fairly early on in a 20-year run. It was in 2007 or 8, I believe. Brady went out on the first play of the game, and he went 11-5 with Matt Castle as his quarterback. So, again, there's some evidence there that. But you can't make up for evaluation mistakes. You can't make up for bad offensive lines when you don't have the best quarterback in the history of football playing in the backfield. That's Bill Belichick's issue. Anthony sent me a message on Facebook. See if I can see what it is quick. If I had my phone, it'd be easier. Sorry. Should I be worried? Oh, this is about, let's see what this says. Report, Jimbo Fisher expected to be fired. Interesting. I'm going to say he's going to make it through the season. I'll read this article afterwards, but that's some good, a good catch there. I'm looking for the date on this. I'm still shocked they would buy him out for $77 million. But good info there, Anthony. He should be fired, by the way. He's done a great job. Year after year, they have some of the best recruiting classes in football, and they don't turn them into wins. They certainly don't turn them into championships, that's for sure. They barely turn them into wins. Let me get through these last couple of comments. I see Jim Barringer just popped in to the room, and we certainly want to get him in here, get his thoughts on a little bit of thoughts on yesterday's football and catch us up on some NHL news, including the Hall of Fame inductions. So let me get through a couple of these comments really quick. That's why you need NFL recap show Monday evening around the beginning of Monday Night Football. I can't. I got too many shows I do now. Massage molester, as we said. The game is not passing by, but the young players are not getting his message. That's the biggest problem. Once they stop listening, it's a problem. Alec thinks the Seahawks are a fake team. I'm still going to take them as the NFC representative to the Super Bowl. Rick, I believe your team was 71. If it was 71, Bob's 72 and mine's 73. We can't turn back the clock, Kenny. No one person is a whole team. A team, it's a team, remember. I do believe that. I do not think 12 was the whole responsibility. And CA knows Jim's here, and he's already brought up the Dallas Stars. So we'll let Jim comment as he wishes. Good evening. Oh, sorry. Good morning, Jim Barrier. Still in Toronto, I assume. It looks like a hotel room you're in there.
Yeah, it's back in Toronto. Still in Toronto, actually. A few more days in Toronto. It's a beautiful weekend here up north of the border. Beautiful time of year. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Can't ask for a better time.
So what has been kind of the timeline out there for you in Toronto? What's been going on since you've been there?
I got in here Thursday, so, settled in. People started showing up. Friday was a big day for the media. It was a ringing ceremony for all the inductees. Henrik Lundqvist on hand, Tom Barrasso, Mike Vernon, Pierre Turgeon, Caroline Ouellette, Ken Hitchcock was there, and then Eric Lacroix representing Lacroix family. Just to get their rings, the little Q&A, and, then we break into media scrums, and then they were honored at the Hockey Hall of Fame game on Friday night as the Leafs took on the Calgary Flames, which was a great game between two good Canadian teams. And then Saturday afternoon, there was a fan forum with, all the inductees outside of the two builders. Mostly it was just players, which was cool. People are in town. A lot of players are in town for Legends game Sunday afternoon. I will be there. I was there Saturday night as the Leafs took on the Canucks. Nothing better than a Saturday night hockey night in Canada, in Toronto, Montreal, wherever you are. It's just a beautiful time of year. So, and then the induction is Monday night.
You weren't invited to play in the Legends game?
They didn't invite me. I don't know why.
I mean, that's just bogus. We got to look into this.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why I wasn't invited to play in this game. I still don't understand it.
Rick Sherlock, I'm putting you on that job. Find out who's picking these teams and why Jim Barrier is left out.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous, but it's okay. I get to cover the game. I'll be there with some great people. So
this is got to be an exciting weekend for you. I mean, this is your first time covering this event, I believe, right? Or no?
Yeah, covering it. I mean, I've been here. I was here as a fan, 2018 from Brodeur, but covering it, member of the media is really cool.
You're a big shot now, and you're still coming on our show. So, I mean, I'm afraid Jim's fees might go up, so I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, Jim's fees might be going up soon.
I mean, I can't go much higher than zero, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right.
Well, catch us up a little bit because we haven't had you on, and there's obviously been a lot going on. The Rangers have been off to a pretty good start, as we know. Yeah. The Bruins kind of picked up where they left off in the regular season anyway last year. What are your thoughts overall on this? And I know we got a couple of drama See,
Yeah, there's a lot of drama going on.
Sharks have been off to a bad start. What's your takeaway early here? The surprises, the disappointments, and just overall the early part of the season.
I mean, look, Peter Laviolette coming in, doing what Peter Laviolette does is play good defensive hockey with a team in New York. They needed it. I think the players are a little bit more relaxed. But he set the tone early, right? Talking with some people. 8 a.m. practices now. No more of this 10:30 stuff. Like, if you don't like it, you can go play someplace else. Guys are really liking it. The vibe, they're more relaxed, not under a lot of pressure. They feel good. Artemi Panarin continues to be a beast. He's letting the guys that need to play. Lafreniere's starting to cook. He's starting to play well. They're putting him in the right positions to succeed. They're doing this. Shesterkin, Jonathan Quick's been a real big surprise. Didn't really think they were going to be able to do this with him, but the defense in front of them is really good, and they're turning things around even when they don't have both their goaltenders, Hedl and Fox. So they're still winning games because they're playing good defense and taking care of their own zone. I'm not shocked that Vegas is off to the start that they are. I still have them as my Western Conference representative in the Stanley Cup Final, and it should have been the case from the beginning. They're taking it very personal. I don't care what they say to the media. They're on a mission to repeat. Colorado's off to some struggles right now. They just gave up an 8 spot. But, you look at some surprise around the league. You go to Boston's because really nobody really knew what Boston we were going to get. Bergeron's not there. Krejci's not there. Zaka, okay, can he be his number one? Then you have Matthew Patra show up. He's playing well. But I always knew this team was going to be good because of the goaltending. Like, you had Swayman, you had Olmark. Okay, they're there. Then you look at a team like Anaheim out west. I mean, they really came out of nowhere to begin this season. You could say, oh, well, it's supposed to be a rebuild. And I don't think it's going to continue. But the way Gibson's playing, DeStol, you have Leo Carlson, a bunch of players, Mason McTavish, they're playing the right way. So they're starting to put things together. Vancouver is a big surprise because, again, we really didn't know what Vancouver were going to get, right? There was talk they could finish 4th, they could finish 5th. Where are they going to finish? They come off to a hot start, though the Leafs brought them back to earth. I mean, it looked like Vancouver played the night before and Toronto didn't. So, but, kudos to the Leafs. The back end of a road trip. Vancouver's going them back. So, I mean, sometimes you lay an egg, but I thought Vancouver played well. Thatcher Demko's off to a really, really good start. Edmonton and Calgary are the two biggest disappointments right now out west. I mean, and they're just total dumpster fires. We can get into that a little bit. Ottawa's a disappointment. They got a win against Calgary, but they've been a disappointment with all the mess that's been around them with the Shane Pinto suspension for gambling. The general manager leaves because he doesn't file contracts right with the National Hockey League. The owner comes out and says things to the NHL about not knowing stuff while he's buying the team. So, yeah, they got off to a great start, and then all this stuff hit. So, there's been a lot of good hockey. It's
if this was the NCAA, they'd be put on probation for a lack of institutional control up there.
Exactly, and instead they're getting fired. I mean, look, Washington right now is a surprise, but they're beating teams that they always beat, like the Islanders and the Devils, but they were supposed to be an older team. Pittsburgh may be starting to figure it out a little bit. The Flyers are hanging around, but like you look at it, like Detroit's up there. You got the Floridas are starting to figure it out. Tampa's struggling because no Vasilevsky. They really aren't playing great defense. So again, it all depends on your perspective. Again, is it late, early? Buffalo's up there as a disappointment right now. Two young goaltenders. Are you really? Yeah, Dallas Stars. I know Dallas is where everybody expects Dallas to be at the top of the Central Division. Matthew Shane looks really good. Pavelski, Robertson. I mean, the way he's playing, Pavelski's still playing at a high level. So there's a lot of good teams right now. A lot of good hockey.
Speaking of good teams, I mean, the San Jose Sharks have that great momentum going here with a couple wins in a row.
They're a bad hockey team. They are a very bad hockey team.
So I shouldn't be expecting them to make a run at the Vegas here this year.
No. I think, look, they had 10 goals over their first 10 games. Not very good. They got blown, but they were getting blown out left and right. They had a nice talkie too, but Vegas pummeled them. I mean, they beat the Oilers, but again, the Oilers are just the Oilers finally got to win Saturday night against Seattle, and Seattle's come back to earth. They're not the same team that they were last year. They're not getting the depth scoring. They don't have the defense or the goaltending that allowed them to be a good team last year. And you look at it, Edmonton, Zach Hyman gets first period hat trick. They put up 4 goals. But, I mean, the Oilers, you hear it everywhere. Couldn't defend, couldn't get a save, couldn't score. They do it without Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. But it's ridiculous that the fact that everything falls on a $5 million goaltender when everybody wasn't playing well. Like, top to bottom, that team was not good. Ken Holland put this team in salary cap purgatory. Coaching, you're changing systems. It's just not on one guy. And it's easy to point to the guy that makes $5 million, but it was a team problem, not a goaltending problem. And I still think they still have a goaltending problem.
There you go. Let me see. We got a couple of comments relating to NHL. CA still got it's a brave new world trying to brew in Toronto. I'm not sure what exactly he's referring to.
I mean, Toronto, Toronto, William Nylander, 15-game point streak to begin the season. I mean, this guy's going to get paid. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He's going to get paid. Elias Pettersson for Vancouver's a restricted free agent. He's another one that's probably going to get paid at the end of the year. Both guys are not going to negotiate during the season. They've said that. Both have said, one have said that he wants to stay. Nylander, it looks like he's comfortable in Toronto. He rode the subway the other day to the game. So I think he's a Toronto guy. So, but again, it comes down to dollars. How much the cap going to go up? If it goes up, when it goes up. There's so many moving parts, and the fact that the way the Maple Leafs have been struggling, they're lucky where they are in the standings right now as they head to Sweden to play a couple of games because their defense was not really good. Nylander and Matthews are really carrying this team, so they got a nice couple of wins back-to-back on home ice before they head out of town. So they're in a nice position heading into this next segment of the season. But you look at teams, like it's getting late early, and I know everybody's going, oh, well, you look at the Blues and what I'm not building my teams on what the Panthers and the Blues did. You want to be in a playoff position by American Thanksgiving. Look, the Oilers have 7 points now. They're 3-9-1. Vegas has 25. Vancouver is 21, and LA has 19. If you look at the wild card, yeah, they can make a run of it. They have a lot of teams that they have to pass, but they gotta win these games. Like you can't lose to San Jose, Nashville, Calgary. Like you have to beat teams that you have to beat to get there. So it's just a complete mess. And then the other part of Alberta, Calgary. I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau only picks up an assist. He's benched. He's in the first year of an 8-year contract. He's paying $10 million. I mean, was it the coach? Was it the player? Is the player good enough? I mean, we really don't know. I mean, but Calgary is a complete mess. Got Zadorov. Nikita Zadorov's agent comes out Friday night, says he wants to be traded. Looked into it. Yeah, he's looking to get traded. New Jersey, Devils, Toronto, and Vancouver are teams interested in him. Chris Tanev's also on the market from Calgary, New Jersey, also in the mix on that one, and Noah Hannafin, and we'll see where that goes. But Calgary's, again, looking to sell, but they're going to do it on their own terms.
What we're working on 30-plus years now without a Canadian Stanley Cup champion. Can somebody – I'm not confident that streak's going to end this year either because Toronto's probably the best team. Well, I guess Vancouver's probably the best team in Canada, at least right now. Is there any chance we're going to see –
I don't see it this year. I just don't see it. I mean, again, it's November. It's November 12th. But again, there's still a lot of hockey left. But I mean, it doesn't look like it. It really doesn't. I mean, the Leafs got to play better defensively. Edmonton's got to play better defensively. Calgary's not making the playoffs. Vancouver, could they do it? Sure, but. Would it be better for this league if the Canadian teams were consistently better than they've been the last 30 years? Wouldn't it be better? I mean, if you look at it, though, I mean, they've been really good consistently in the regular season, but they just can't finish.
Playoffs, yeah.
There was a stretch from 2004 to about 2011. The Canadian teams made a final. And they had legit shots to win in 04, 06. I mean, they really didn't have a shot in 2007. But 2011, Vancouver was a win away from winning a Stanley Cup. So, I mean, if something breaks for these teams, we're not talking like Craig, we talk about it. The goal in 2004, you talk to Flames fans about in Game 6. I mean, you tell them, that was in. I mean, you see something breaks. We're not talking about it. But, again, it's still a long time because – But again, if you look at percentages, more guys, I was talking with somebody last night, you look at it, more people and players in the league are coming from the States now. So it's not like a Canadian heavy league anymore. Like you have more Europeans, Russians, you have a lot of guys from the States playing. So it's, I know it's their sport, but percentage-wise, if you look at the players in the league, it's a world sport now.
What is this? Kenny says, Canada's taking a page out of Colorado's book, not finishing.
I mean, Colorado's got struggles. I mean, yeah, they beat up a bad Devils team right now that's missing a couple big players, but they can't score goals right now. I mean, Lekkonen's hurt. I mean, that was a nasty fall into the boards. But, Colorado's having struggling goaltending. I mean, look, again, I'll go back to it. Until somebody tells me in Vegas, legit, in the books, and I'm trying to do my digging on this, but no one seems to have a clear answer. I want to know why nobody put the Vegas Golden Knights as the number one team betting odds to win the Stanley Cup this year. What? They lost one player. You're telling me, Aiden Hill can't do it again? Well, he's doing it again. He's got 3 shutouts. He's tied with Tristan Jarry. That defense isn't going anywhere. Still got Jack Eichel. Team's pretty good. Got a good coach. You're putting Colorado, Toronto, Edmonton, Carolina, New Jersey. Put
money available to you, I guess, and put a little weight.
I'm not going to be shy about it. I saw what their odds were, and
that's probably who they're betting up there in Ottawa. They're probably betting on.
That was weird. So that's a weird situation because talking with people, it's the NHL just doesn't want to give any more details about it. But it's crazy to think like a guy could have gotten more than 41 games to get suspended. Like I heard it from the commissioner's mouth. He said that he could have given him more games. But he didn't bet on hockey. So. Okay, but you could give him more games, but he didn't bet on hockey. So what did he do that warranted a 41-game suspension?
I have a problem. Not that I think players ought to be wagering on their sport at all, but I have a problem with all of these professional leagues getting into bed with gambling sites.
So do I.
Having a problem with their players getting involved with gambling sites. I mean,
look, it's a business. It's always been a business. It's about making money. And I think it's from the player side, I think you really shouldn't do it.
No.
As a player, like you shouldn't be doing anything while you're playing the sport. But once you're retired, I have no problem with it.
I have a problem with the leagues being involved at all. They make enough money elsewhere. They can go get the money elsewhere. They don't have to take the money from the DraftKings of the world. Geez, good grief.
But remember, they frowned upon it before because they didn't want states to have sports betting.
Yeah, and they frowned on it before because there was no money in it for them.
Right, and now there's money in it for them. But again, look, there's a lot of things.
So anyway, Rick's going to look into you not being in this legend game. You are a legend on this podcast. So
I'm also a legend on the hockey rink. So
I got to agree with that. Kenny thinks the same reason Kaepernick's not playing is why you are not playing in the Legends game. I don't think that's true.
That is definitely not true at all.
First of all, I don't think he's done anything that would get him banned. And I also think, as I said, Kaepernick can't play. I know Jim can play, so there's
look. Here's the thing. Like I'll say this. Look, the Kaepernick thing. I've told this to people. He doesn't really want to play. He just wants the spotlight and he wants the attention. He doesn't want to play.
It's good that he doesn't want to play because he can't play anyway.
He's been out of the league for 7 years.
No, he can't play. God, I get in this conversation like every football season. Patriots ahead, by the way. Big news in Germany, 3-0.
Oh, big deal.
Watch. Oh, God. Let's see what else I got here before I switch gears. I know he's got something. And the Knights had many injuries before the playoffs, especially at the...
Yeah, but they were still playing well last year, like even before the playoffs. Like they were still playing well. I mean, yeah, they had the goalie injuries, but I mean, they were rolling in. There was a lot of disrespect to Vegas last year heading into the playoffs, just because we really weren't sure what we were going to get.
And
Stars have been playing well, though.
Obviously, CA is a big Dallas fan, so he's
Dallas has been playing well. I'll tell you, they've been playing better than a lot of teams out there. And I mean, look, it's just it's such a long season, right? And they're going to decentralize the draft and make it similar to the NFL draft. And again, selfish reasons, I want that. I don't want that. I want to be connecting with everybody. But it just takes away from the city. It takes away from the experience. Yeah. Players are not going to want to go. It's like, oh, well, we kept things too close together. That's the reason why they did it. Okay, well, maybe go back to the way it was. Once the Stanley Cup Finals over, the draft and the awards are like a couple of days later, and then a week later is free agency. Or here's a suggestion. Let's not have free agency July 1st. Let's give both countries the holidays off, and then we can have free agency start July 6th.
Good point.
Like, there's no look, I know it's like the start of a new business year, July 1st. Like, that's like the big day, but I don't get it. Like, we don't need, like, even all the guys I've been talking with, it's like you're drained from the draft. You got to go straight into this thing, and you don't get the holiday. Like, the Americans get the holiday, but the guys up north, they don't get it. So it's like, have we all compromise on July 6th as the day we do free agency? That's it. Because the trade deadline moves around.
Yeah.
The trade deadline day moves around. It's not always set. Oh, it's this day. It's this day. It moves. Again, back-to-back years is on a Friday. I don't know why, but okay. That's fine. But
well, again, if you want common sense, professional sports is not the place to go.
No, they don't have common sense. But no, look, it's a great weekend up here. Like, being up here, interacting with people, talking with guys like, you talk with like guys like Hitchcock, and you talk with guys like Turgeon and Vernon's and the Barassos, Lundqvist, like, guys talking about it. What?
Did you get to speak to the King?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was a very nice guy. He's always been a nice guy. Like, he's one of those. And I told him, I saw him Friday, and I go to him and I said, "You're still the best dressed guy in the hockey, and you're retired." He's like, he got a chuckle out of that.
That's good. Who's actually playing in the Legends game?
Lundqvist is actually going to play today. He's actually going to suit up. Yeah.
Is that game televised?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, that's too bad. It's
all right. I'll have pictures. Don't worry.
Probably find it somewhere on YouTube or something later.
Yeah, I mean, like, Lundqvist is playing in the game. I think Adam Oates is playing. Joe Nieuwendyk. There's a bunch of big guys playing in the game today. I saw Ryan Miller the other day. He was up. He's playing in the game. So
cool. Goalies are good. We know that.
Well, yeah.
Patriots are behind 7-3, by the way. Jim, I know I don't want to monopolize your time, but if you got a couple of minutes, we can get your thoughts on yesterday's college football action real quick.
I caught some of it. Yeah, I was able to catch some of the games yesterday. Yeah.
Anything that sticks out for you? I mean, to me, about
I did. I have a couple of things that stick out yesterday.
Yeah, throw them at me.
Oklahoma State, what are you doing, man? How do you lose that game 45-3?
And this hurts Texas's chances a lot in my mind, because
yes,
now if they play Oklahoma State in the championship game, it's obviously lost some luster, and it's going to hurt them as a one-loss team if we get to that. Remember, you and I talked about that Texas-Alabama potentially. Now Texas may be in trouble there. Well,
I think so too. I think you look at the best of the one-loss teams, it's either going to be Oregon, it could be Alabama. Look, I was texting with somebody yesterday, and I watched some of that Washington-Utah game. Dude, what do you do? Like, these guys just go into the end zone. Don't be a hero. Get the ball across the goal line. Stop dropping footballs at the one. Like, what do you do? And then, like, two dudes just run by them and don't even pick the ball up.
I was on the Mac and Jack show this morning with Jim Jeffcoat there, and he brought that up to me, and I said, geez, all I could see was Leon Lett when I saw that play.
I said that. I was like, yo, Leon, let it go, man. I was like, oh, my God.
It's too soon, I guess, to bring that up to some
Cowboys. Oh, my God. That was crazy. I mean, I didn't expect – I was like, wow, okay. And then, you just look around the games, like Bama looks good, and Georgia's playing well, and, just the teams that you expected to win, like, Oregon won again. Like, that's not a shock. Like, that packed. If Washington can get out of Corvallis unscathed, and they can win and get undefeated and go through the Apple Cup, that's going to be a heck of a Pac-12 championship game.
It will be a great game, and you might see the Heisman Trophy decided in that game as well, I think.
I mean, look, they're able to. I mean, they're continuing to put up points. I mean, look, Oklahoma beat West. That was a great game. I mean, like, can we just talk about how James Franklin just can't win a big game? I mean, you and I both said it on Wednesday. If they were going to come with the same game plan against Ohio State, they were going to lose.
I don't know how long you let this go. I mean, he's got 4 wins in 23 or 4 games or whatever against these two teams, and that can't be a record. And that game yesterday, I mean, what was the final? 20. It was only a 9-point game, I think, or
24-15 was the final.
That wasn't even indicative of how much they dominated the second half. They didn't have to throw the football in the second half.
No.
A tremendous game under some – listen, this team is galvanized by this whole,
Jim Harbaugh thing, which is stupid to begin with.
I said it when I started the show, and I said on the other show this morning, the Big Ten – brilliant move, making this move Friday afternoon when there's going to be no chance to go and get themselves a court injunction. They know that's not going to happen. So,
but it's also a Friday media news dump at 3 p.m. because it's the typical. Well, we need to do something, but nobody wants to. It's not going to get picked up, but because it's 3 p.m. on a Friday, no one's going to care.
And they categorize it an institutional penalty, not a penalty against Jim Harbaugh. He's just the tool of the,
But what's the worst part is now is if the NCAA comes back and finds more, they can't do anything.
Yeah. And he's still going to be involved all week long. I mean,
but the worst part is you gave him a 3-game suspension. Okay, he misses one Ohio State game. If Michigan wins, he's back for the Big Ten title game and the playoff. So it doesn't really
this year. This team, I think this is a veteran team, and this team is rallying around this. And I think they're more of a threat to win a national.
And don't be surprised if Michigan files an injunction against the Big Ten.
Well, it'll happen, but the hearing's not going to be till next Friday now either, though.
No, I know, but there's gonna be a lot of evidence that comes up that other teams are doing it too.
Yeah, well, they're already sitting on evidence with Ohio State and Rutgers doing it and giving Purdue their signals for the championship game last year. I mean, come on. Again, we talked about this, and I talked about it till I'm blue in the face. We decide who we want to go after. If you don't like somebody, you go find evidence that they did something wrong.
Right, exactly. I mean, if you get back to the field for a minute, Texas Tech, nice little win, late victory over Kansas. That's a nice win for them.
A disappointing Texas Tech team in a lot of people's minds, but a big win for them yesterday for sure.
Arizona, nice little win too. I mean, that was a nice game.
Missouri with a nice win over a good Tennessee team yesterday.
And and we talked about that Wednesday. That could have been an emotional game. You're coming off that Georgia game. You're not really sure what's going to happen. They come out and they laid the hammer.
Schrader was tremendous in that game. 200 yards rushing, 100 yards receiving. Nobody's ever done that in the SEC yesterday. You talked about Bama getting better. Milroe was responsible for 6 touchdowns yesterday.
Oh, yeah. If they get to they're going to get to the title game, so it doesn't matter. Now, they're in, right? They locked themselves into the title game, right?
Even if Alabama loses to Auburn next week, I believe they're in the championship game. I don't think they can, because Mississippi's the closest one to them, I think.
I'd have to look at the standings on that, but I mean,
I'm pretty sure that Alabama had to lose 2 games chance at the SEC championship game. Take a quick
yeah, they had to lose 2 games. Yeah, they're 7-0 in the conference. So
they got 2 games.
So if they lose to Auburn in a couple weeks, they're fine.
They actually have a 3-game lead because they beat both Ole Miss and LSU. So
so they're locked into the title game, and they'll play Georgia.
Right, and Georgia can't lose either. So it's coming down to that. Alabama's playoff hopes are still on the line next week against Auburn, and Auburn's been playing better football recently. So
is the Auburn game next week or is it in 2 weeks?
Might be in 2 weeks. Now that I think about it,
because they probably play some crappy team. Yeah, they play Chattanooga next week.
And they got Chattanooga next week, so they got to bye. Then they got Auburn.
That's a bye, and then they play Georgia in the championship game.
Exactly. So, it's funny when you look at their schedule; they've already got Georgia penciled in there. So
yeah, they did. They already put Georgia there. It's already in the title game. So I mean, look, something more things change.
That game's at Auburn, and Auburn.
They've struggled at Auburn at times, but I think the way this team is clicking right now, I don't see them losing that game.
I think Auburn's a couple years maybe away from getting back to maybe even a year with a transfer portal. But Hugh Freed's a good coach. I think he'll get them back in contention. And that
I think they'll make it a close game like they did with Georgia. I think they'll be up for that game.
Yeah. All right, Jim. Well, let's go.
I gotta just say this on Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
I gotta say one thing on Jimbo Fisher. They're gonna pay him $76 million to go away.
There. Anthony Price broke that news on the show here. He caught it on bench. What is it?
I saw it this morning as well. I was like, but look. I think Fisher's done a good job there, but he hasn't won that big game, and he's never been to a title game. And I think, but look, can we just talk about one thing? Like, he had one good season at Florida State. Like, if you really think about it, he had one good season at Florida State and got paid that kind of money.
There is that, but he goes out and recruits. He's got a top 5 recruiting class every single year.
But they can't win a big game. I think they won one big game against Alabama. That was the Manziel game.
I know there's a lot of money down there, a lot of oil money and whatnot, but as my followers keep saying, but I never thought they'd pay him $77 million to go away.
Well, then Penn State better get ready to start paying James Franklin the kind of money to go away too, because if you were basing stuff on resume, then the 4 wins against Ohio State and Michigan, when you have a good elite team every year, and this was the best defensive team they've had and a quarterback, and you come up with that.
I think, nice payday, Jimbo, for sure.
Yeah, I wish I was getting $76 million to go away too.
Franklin's buyout's pretty close. It might be in the 70s as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So Penn State stuck with him because they're not buying him out. That's not happening there.
No.
So, it's not a good situation. Well, Jim, if you're around, we'll get you on Wednesday for the football huddle and look at the latest college football playoff rankings and such in the upcoming games.
Yep.
And, you enjoy the Legends game today and the inductions tomorrow night, right?
Yep, it is. Yep. I'll be dressed to the nines on Monday night.
Jim will have his best hat on that night.
Yes, I will. I have my best suit and my best dress. So,
Jim, thanks for coming in. Enjoy the rest of the weekend up there, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye. The great Jim Beringer does some great stuff on LTS, Let's Talk Sports. Does a lot of stuff of his own, guests on a lot of shows, and obviously his main gig is writing for FullPressHockey.com, where he does a great job. What's wrong with my collar? What's going on here? There. Anyway, back to it. Patriots down 7-3. Nothing new there. Where were we? We were talking about the NFL. We'll get to this week's games in a minute. I was going to look quickly at the standings. How much time we got? We'll get into this. Maybe a little bit of baseball if we have time at the end. Sorry, Drew. In the standings, we still got the Dolphins with a game lead over the Bills. All of a sudden, this doesn't look like one of the best divisions in football. Bills with a home game against Denver this week. Really, a must win. They're 5-4. Jets holding in there somehow, 4-4. Right now, the AFC North looks like maybe the best division, at least in the AFC, is everybody's at least 2 games over 500. Baltimore looks like the class there. I think the Bengals are the best team in this division. And I think the Bengals and Kansas City are the best 2 teams in the conference. Jaguars are hot, 5 in a row. They get the 49ers today. Getting points at home, I'm going to be probably taking those points. Texans a surprising 4-4. DeMarco Ryan's doing a great job there. We talked about Stroud playing great as a rookie quarterback. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. Taking care of the football, so important. See Zach Wilson. Jesus. Colts, listen, they're going nowhere. Anthony Richardson is going to be out of the league like RG3. The guy can't stay healthy. Didn't stay healthy in college. Never put together a full season. He's a great athlete, not a great quarterback, and this is going to be a bad draft pick. I've said it for a while. My guy, Will Levis, is now the starter, most likely for the rest of the year in Tennessee. We'll see if he can build off of his not a bad start. His first game was really good. Second game, a little bit less so. Chiefs, again, keep trying to write them off. They're not going away. Their defense is better. Their offense, as long as you get Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. And by the way, Travis Kelce, you really shouldn't be traveling to Brazil on your off week. The idea is to get some rest. God. Anyway, the Raiders win their first game after firing Josh McDaniel. What a soap opera out there. Supposedly he traded a wide receiver because he thought his wife was attracted to him. Then he gets fired after he allows a team meeting and lets Antonio Pierce speak. And part of what happened was Pearson invoked the 2007 Giants, which really McDaniel took exception to. But then he also was told what the players talked about wanting him to change and not have to overcorrect everything, every little mistake, every time something's made, which is what coaches are supposed to do, by the way. But obviously he's not a tremendous people person. What happens is Josh McDaniel says, fine. He goes to practice and doesn't coach at all, doesn't talk to anybody. They go out and lose and he gets fired. Josh McDaniel's head coaching prospects are dead. And Bill Belichick's coaching tree, the branches are dying there pretty fast, too. The Eagles remain 8-1, continue to dominate the Cowboys. Sorry, Alan Perales. This Cowboy team is never beating the Eagles. They're not good enough on either side of the football to beat this team. Commanders hanging tough with a win over the Patriots last week. Sam Howell has his moments where he looks really good, and then he has his moments where he looks like a rookie quarterback, which is this the second year, but his first year playing full time. The Giants dead. Get ready for next year. Find a way to rebuild that offensive line and get Daniel Jones somebody to throw the ball to, and make a decision on Saquon. The Lions, a surprising 6-2, going to the Chargers today. I'm not liking that game. The Vikings have rebounded from 1-4 to win 4 in a row. I thought it was great team unity. Rick, I will say this to you. I don't know if I've mentioned it on my shows, but I was very impressed. I've talked about my seeing Kirk Cousins on the show Quarterback on Netflix and getting a better appreciation for him as a person. And I think you got appreciation for what his teammates think about him, where they're all wearing Cousins T-shirts last week heading into the game. I thought that was kind of cool to see. Packers going nowhere. The Bears nowhere. Coach is going to be in trouble. Rumors about Belichick and the Bears, Belichick and the Chargers, Belichick and the Redskins, which I think are nonsense. But Bill Belichick will likely be looking for a job. Watch the Chargers. Franchise quarterback, lots of talent on both sides of the football. Head coaching has been the big problem out there. The South, the Saints, a flawed team, but playing the best football in the division. The Falcons have started to fade. Arthur Smith may be in trouble. This loss last week to the Vikings was a bad one. The Buccaneers have settled now with 4 losses in a row to 3-5, and Carolina might be the worst team in the league. 49ers lost 3 in a row now, tied with the Seahawks, who got thumped in Baltimore last week, and the Rams and the Arizona are both out of it. What do we got for comments here? Drew's back. Bengals receiving corps is beat up right now. Higgins out. Chase 50-50 to play. I still like them today. Joe Burrow's just really good. And this team, I think, plays as a team. They got off to a rough start. They kept it together. Higgins was out during a lot of the he's only been back a couple of weeks, I think. Jamar Chase has played less than healthy before and played very well. I still like the Bengals today, and we'll get into today's games here in a second. Okay, we got 10-14. Steak and eggs this morning for Kenny. You didn't bring it up for everybody, of course. Kirk was at practice and the game trying to help out. He is. You know what? He is. I really have grown newfound respect for Kirk Cousins, the person and the teammate. I have my problems with Kirk Cousins, the quarterback, in some big moments, but I have a new appreciation for him, and you can see how his teammates feel about him. Arthur Smith's game planning is awful. Using Bijan as a decoy all game is just dumb. He's your best weapon. I mean, Drake London's played well. The tight end, their tight ends skipping my mind here. They drafted number 1 last year, but the problem is they don't have anybody to give them the football. They started a year with Desmond Ritter, didn't work out. They turned to Taylor Heineke last week, didn't work out. And if you're not going to use Bijan, what's he there for? Stupid. Agreed. Smith uses a wedge board to make a game plan. Ouija board, sorry. I'm guessing that's a Ouija board. Is that might be how you spell Ouija. I don't even know. Yes, thank you. Pitts, Kyle Pitts, the tight end for the Falcons. Great weapons, but you got nobody to get them the football. Drake London's had some decent numbers this year too. What else? What's going on in football? We'll do the picks quick, and then we'll do a little bit of baseball before we wrap it up. Bengals, a monitor chase in warm-ups. We'll see how that goes. What else? 49ers apparently got Chase Young after the price kept falling. After asking price fell, they wanted a higher draft pick than they got. Patriots were interested in Chase Young as well. That did not happen. Cardinals are going to activate Connor ahead of the Falcons game. Cardinals maybe get much better. Again, much better. It's probably a relative term, but they're going to get Murray back and they're going to get Connor back. They did simplify, and they're going to give him the plays, I guess, Murray on his wristband. We all know his problem learning the playbook anyway, so dumbing it down is probably a really good idea. Sad note, former NFL cornerback DJ Hayden was among 6 killed in a Houston car crash yesterday. He's just 33 years old, and the others, our thoughts and our prayers are with their families as well. And this is just a sad note. We hear too much of it. Not just in the world of sports, but in the world in general. Young people taken away too soon. And the Saints wide receiver, Michael Thomas, arrested on battery charges. Oh, surprisingly, another criminal in the NFL. But they're keeping Colin Kaepernick out. Colin Coward. It's pretty funny. They're keeping Colin Coward out. Anyway. Games. Let's get to the games. Here's my picks. I got a winner Thursday night. If my picks even got taken, who the hell knows? What are we missing here? We got a couple of Ouija. Thank you, Drew. Drew's the spelling expert on the show. And thanks, but if I spell it right, it would ruin first reputation. Disregard the drug overdone on NFL Sunday opening song. It's one of the hardest riff ones of all time. I have no idea where we're going there, CA. Murray has expanded his Xbox knowledge while out. Hopefully he was playing as the Cardinals then, and he could learn the playbook. Good luck with everyone bets and fantasy matchups. Yes. I'll tell you who I'm going to bet today. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see if we know. I know 2 of my picks, I think, today. I'll give you my picks. I did like the Patriots, of course, over the Bengals, plus 1.5, I believe. Right now it's 7-3. I did have Chicago Thursday night. They were a winner. Maybe we'll get a good game to watch on a Thursday night eventually. Bengals at home laying 6 to the Texans. I'll take the Bengals -6 here as well as the Texans are playing. I like the Bengals at home here, despite the injuries. You might see a lot of Joe Mixon today. One of the reasons the Bengals have played better is they've remembered their running game, and Joe Mixon has played much better. Vikings and the Saints giving 3 on the road. I'm going to take the Vikings here. I'm not a big David Carr fan. Hasn't played badly, but this is his MO. Madison has played well for Minnesota. Jordan Addison is starting to become a bigger part of that offense with Jefferson out. And if Jefferson comes back, this team may be able to win this bad division. So we'll see what happens. Well, the Lions are a pretty good team, but I picked them to lose today too. Steelers will take -3.5 over the Packers. That'll probably be a bet for me today. The Buccaneers -3 over the Titans. I'm going to take the Titans here and Will Levis to beat the Buccaneers at home. Buccaneers not playing good. 49ers giving 3 on the road to a really good Jacksonville team. Give me the Jags in 3. Browns at the Ravens. Ravens will be a bet today, -6.5. The Cardinals will be a 2.5-point favorite at home to the Falcons. I'm going to take the points here too. Give me the Cardinals. The Lions and the Chargers. The Lions a 3-point favorite at the Chargers. A lot of talent on this Charger team. Hasn't played well. 4-4, playing better recently. I like the Chargers at home. Give me them with the points. The Cowboys 17.5 over Danny DeVito and the Giants. I'll just lay the points because what's the point? The Seahawks will be 6-point favors over the Commanders. I'll take the Seahawks here. The Jets somehow a 1-point favorite over the Raiders. After last week's debacle, I got to take the Raiders at home. And the Bears, as we know, won 16-13 over the Panthers. And Monday night, we get the Bills over the Broncos. The Bills are 7. I will take the Bills in this game. What do we got here? Oh, something up top in here. That's funny. Look, everyone. Oh, overtone. I still don't know. CA. The Colts. Breakfast is ready, so have a good day. Have a good day, Kenny. We're about done here. We're going to do a little bit of baseball to wrap it up. Keith, second from last in a pick'em. Rick in second. Fortunately, in the cigar box where you can make 6 picks in up to X amount of dollars. I'm up after yesterday, 500 in the cigar box. I picked 3 games 3 college games and 3 pro games. Today, right now, as we stand, this could change a little bit because I haven't looked at the odds in the cigar box. My bet will be probably the Bengals, the Steelers, and maybe the Chargers. Maybe the Chargers. Maybe the Seahawks. I'm kind of up in the air between those 2 teams. DDH, thumbs up. We gave him the thumbs up at the top of the show. We'll give him a thumbs up now. DDH, our man Dan Dave Harris. He actually came up in discussion today. Never to be forgotten. A little bit of baseball. Drew, let me pull something up here. The managers, Drew and I said when Drew was on the show a couple weeks ago, and Drew, I'd like to get you on, I don't know, maybe next week to talk about the free agency. We'll go through the free agency, the top free agents anyway, as much as we can, and we'll give our predictions on where they will end up. But as far as the managers, I want to get to, don't need that. I'm looking for this thing from CBS where I can get the. Anyway, let's talk a little more. There we go. We're on track. Okay. So first of all, we'll start with Council. We said that the dominoes would start to fall once Council made a decision. I still think the Mets he used the Mets. I think Drew kind of agreed with me when he said that he had no intention of signing with the Mets. If so, I think he did a disservice to his supposed good friend David Stearns. Got 8-year, $40 million contract, highest ever for a manager. The other managers were happy about this, obviously. I'm not happy about the way this whole thing came down. I know David Ross says he's not upset, but, again, as Kenny said, there's no codes anymore, but there used to be, a code that you wouldn't talk to a team that had a manager. Greg Council obviously doesn't care about that, and I lose a little bit of respect for him in this regard. David Ross, probably not going to manage this year. He did talk about spending more time with his kids, but he's been mentioned for the Houston job. He's been mentioned for one other job too, but we'll see what happens there. The Mets, in turn, turn around and hire Carlos. Who'd they hire? Oh, boy. I know you're here somewhere. Why aren't the Mets here? Why aren't the Mets even here? That's too funny. Anyway, they hired Carlos Mendoza. I believe that's the right name. Bench coach for the Yankees. First timer. Very weird that they're going to go from one experienced manager, try to hire another very experienced manager, not quite as experienced as the other guy, but then they hire somebody with no experience in Mendoza. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. Not easy place to jump. Mets knew as much since they jumped on Mendoza. Good point. They hired Mendoza basically at the same time the announcement was made about Counsell. Dominoes continue to fall as a vote went to the Guardians, another well-respected guy in the game, only a year away out of playing, and another guy with no experience managing, obviously. I think I like what the Angels did. They had Showalter, supposedly was a front runner there. Not sure what happened, but Ron Washington at 71 gets a second chance, and I think a well-deserved second chance. He left Texas under some cloudy circumstances. Talk about a sexual harassment thing. He admitted to an extramarital affair. There were some rumors about substance abuse. He went and rehabilitated his reputation. The infielders and the team in general in Atlanta loved him. He's been there since 2015, I believe. He did get Texas to back-to-back World Series. Had three or four 90-win seasons there. So he did a great job, and I'm glad to see him get another chance. We know that Melvin has gone to San Francisco, so the Padre job is open. I haven't heard a lot of names. Well, actually, I guess it's now that I think about it, it's the former Cardinals manager Schlitt and Flaherty, who are going to be the front runners there. It looks like they're the finalists. We'll see if that's the case. Milwaukee supposedly is looking at after. And by the way, the Giants did that after hiring. I'm talking about the Angels. Back to the Angels. They look very closely at Darren Ernstad and Tim Salmon, former players as well, and decided not to go in that direction. The Astros, as we know, have to replace Dusty Baker. There was some talk about Ron Washington there. They supposedly it's going to be Joe Espada, their bench coach. We'll see how that shakes out. Supposedly Ross will get an interview there. We'll see. And I think that covers the openings that I might have talked about on Friday. Ron Washington Angels is interesting. He's known as a fabulous coach of young players, had a team, but that team is a dumpster fire. So are the Rangers, by the way, when he took over there, Rick, and it took a few years. The problem is he had a better front office to work with in Texas than he's going to have in LA, I think. But he took over a dumpster fire in Texas as well, had a couple of years building up, and he went to consecutive World Series. Now, long ways to go. Ohtani's likely not coming back. Trout, who knows what's going to happen there. So it's going to be very interesting. And at 71 years old, that's the strangest situation to jump into. You did say Schlitt in San Diego 3 weeks ago. I haven't seen, that's not official yet, but it's likely to happen. We got just a couple minutes left. Bendix to Miami shows yet again how good the Tampa Bay management style works. We'll see how that works out. Again, Miami's not going to pay anybody $8 million a year, right? So they're probably paying this guy about $1.5 million. You can tell me if I'm wrong there, Drew, but they're always going to go on the cheap. And firing their very successful first female general manager in baseball kind of shows you a little bit about people not being on the same page in Miami. And I would not be shocked to see Miami take a step back next year, which they've done in the past when guys can't get on the same page. And a little surprising that Donnie Mattingly wasn't more involved in this latest round of managerial sweepstakes, if you will. All right, guys, we got to wrap it up as our time here has come to an end. Why don't I have any music playing? There we go. I appreciate it. Guys, great job with the comments today. Keeping the show rolling. Tremendous job. Go Patriots. Let's get back in this game if we can. We'll see you guys next week with the Stream of Consciousness, and I'll see you on the College Football Huddle on Wednesday night. We'll try to get Larry Sorensen. We'll have Jim Barrier, hopefully. And Are You Serious with this Mad New Yorker on Friday. More news to come about lots of things. See you guys later. Have a great Sunday. Corey Seager, shout out to Seager. And a shout out to, what do you call it? Mattingly was given a new title to keep him in Toronto. It's not manager, though. That's my only point. Thing was fired. Well, whatever. Yeah, I guarantee you that was a mutual decision to part ways. Guys resign all the time, and they're actually fired. So, no, you don't need to send Larry a message, Jim. I talked to him last week. He was busy, and I'll have him on this Wednesday night. He gave me the thumbs up. So we should be fine unless you're busy. So we're fine. Thank you, though. Guys, have a great day. Bye.